Welcome to Planning Phase Syndicate. Thank you all so much for joining us tonight in our Adepticon 2022 recap. I almost said 2020 because it doesn't feel like 2 years have existed. Joining me tonight will be JJ on the mic helping me out. But before we get to that, just want to say if you're here for some X-Wing content about how to strategize, tonight is not the night. We are going to recap lists, talk about our experiences, show off some prizes we got, and kind of go from there. With that being said, let's bring JJ in. Oh, we also have another guest. He's going to be a little still tonight, though. He's kind of he progressed backwards in years. I don't know. Joining me is Still Image Charles, along with JJ. How are you doing tonight, sirs?
I'm doing all right. And in case everybody's wondering, that photo of me with my full beard next to Chris, I have, in shame because of how poorly I did in Adepticon, have decided to completely trim it all off so that way I can regrow my roots in X-Wing and become a better player. And then my victory beard will come at that moment. So.
Thank God I didn't commit to that because I look worse. Like I look younger than you do when I shave my beard. Like it's bad, like little kid bad. Same way my father like doesn't grow goatee. He just has the stupid caterpillar mustache. And before he went really gray, when he would shave it off, it would be like a 10-year difference. Easy, no questions asked. You just look like you joined the military today. That's all.
Oh yeah, as a person who actually was in a military school, yeah, we had to do the complete like head shavings and stuff. God, I hated that. That was the worst part of it. I hated that, man.
Yeah,
Jeez.
I can imagine. It's not for me. I had thought about joining the military after high school and promptly walked the other way. So we're matching color shirts somehow tonight too. No, we did not coordinate that, folks. Anyway, so we wanted to talk tonight about Adepticon, and we're going to go over a whole bunch of things. So lists are going to be farther down the chain. It's more about the experience, about 2.5. What did we get out of it? What do we see? How do we feel about it? And kind of go from there. And I also have some pictures I want to share because I think some pictures are great. And I think that kind of, can tell a story. Though I will admit I'm not the best person to take pictures. Like I forgot 80% of the time. Like I actually was starting to take pictures of each of my games so I could like remember them. So when we came on the show, I'd be like, oh, I did this wrong. But there are 2 games that I failed at. I failed at so bad. I remember what I did wrong in both games. 100%. So, overall though, I think that the experience was very positive. I will say we will get into kind of some scenario discussions and our thoughts on how that piece goes now that we've actually played it in person. And yes, we have pretty openly been very pro the 2.5 changes, but we have some suggestions. We'll just put it that way. There is definitely some suggestions, especially for tournament play, that we would like to see changed, I guess is the best way to say it. Maybe.
Yeah, absolutely.
So why don't you start, JJ, and tell everybody how your experience was and why you didn't bring your Giants hat and how that impacted your whole career at Adepticon.
So yes, I did forget my freaking Giants hat. Like I was actually visibly upset because I was like, damn it, nobody's gonna recognize me without my Giants hat. So but it was a blast. I haven't been out to like a big tournament like that since 2019 here at the Melbourne Regional, and it was just such a great time to meet you guys, to meet you in particular, and meet Bruce Squadron, and also see a lot of the other podcasters in person. Meet Greg from NCX, meet Dion, and in reference to Dion, he is exactly as huggable as you think he is. He is a really, really nice guy, a really great guy. Got to see Devin and Arwen as well, which was really great to like see them in person. His family, really great crew there. Also meeting Will Haywood in person and Marcel. and it was just a ton of fun of like putting faces to people that you talk in Discord and stuff, and it was just an overall just really great experience for me. In terms of the Swiss itself, I did go 2-4. There was really only one game that I can say that I just completely got like blown out of the water, and that was because I decided to joust the list. And that was probably the wrong decision in that in that point. But every other game that I've had, it came down to the final turn, and just things that could have been that had it gone a different way, I would have ended up coming up on top on it. The games were very close, but hats off to those players. I got to play Tyler Tippett. I got to play Ben Doyle, which are solid X-Wing players. They're top-notch players, and we had a really great time playing the game. So yeah.
Awesome. So you also played in the redemption event on Sunday, right?
That's right. Yeah, I played in the redemption event. I did better that time. I did 2-2, and I was actually playing with a modified version of my Swiss cut list, where I was actually trying out Blazer Bomb. Which after playing it in the redemption tournament, I actually wish that I would have brought it with me in the Swiss cut, because I felt that it actually did a lot more for me with my list and how it works than thermal detonators did. But yeah, it was really great to do that redemption tournament. It was just like nice, like no pressure, and just had a lot of fun just enjoying my list. So yeah.
And I will say, cluster mines are key for everything. I don't care what
Yeah.
especially now that they're only 5 points. If you are going to take bombs and not throw them because you're degenerate like JJ, that's what you get. That's what you get for bringing trajectory B wings. Seriously, I told you that shit was going to happen. But if you have the ability and the 5 points to bring mines, 100% just like cluster mines are clutch. And I'm kind of questioning if like Grudge in some of those, why they don't bring cluster mines, because you hit them with 2 of them. It's 2 dice per time. Grudge gets his re-rolls. You can't just roll all 4 at once. And I will say there were some things that happened that during some of my games that if I had been able to do those things, it would have I been able to re-roll. I would have had dead ships. Not me, other ships would have been dead. Um so yeah. So I went 3, 1, and 2, which is I got a draw for my last game. So I don't know how people want to rate that. Essentially, it's my fault for the draw because I went forward too fast and missed the objective by literally like that much
Oof,
with
that sucks.
click. And if I had done that, that would have been we played 5 rounds. So until he reclaimed it, I would have had 5 or 6 extra points and would have easily won that one. I flew a Republic list. I flew 3 N1s, 3 V Wings, and Barris, which, Barris is a no-brainer in Republic. I kitted mine out probably a little bit different than other people did. I put cluster mines on click, and then I put an R3, and that was it. And being able to lock my own ships to prevent range bonuses was 100% key 3 times throughout the whole tournament. Other than that, it didn't matter. People just stayed far away and shot freaking missiles at me. But other than that, it did work. And the cluster mines went off. I nailed 3 people with them.
Nice.
One of them, unfortunately, again, this is where the grudge rerolls comes in. One of them, unfortunately, if I had been able to, would have been dead, and I would have won that last game as well. But, yeah.
Yeah, it is what it is. I mean, for me, I did manage to get a few like trifecta drops with my Braylon and the cluster mines. And what's particularly useful of my particular list, I made a change at the last minute to include Sabine crew in my AP5 list, which allows you to carry a jam token, a stress token, a tractor token, and an ion token. And in almost all but one of my games, I managed to actually tractor somebody onto the third mine. Like I'll hit them for 2, then track them onto the third mine and make sure that single ship hits all those mines. And you get to put on, you get to use Sabine's ability to add on all the different effects if you need to really like lock somebody down with that. In one of my games, I was able to completely wipe out a Mace Windu and severely cripple a Barris with cluster mines, and I actually got Mace to go into a proton bomb as well after that. So it was really effective using those cluster mines to just completely like blanket an entire area and just have that control with Sabine. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so both my actual losses, the first one would have been very close if I had not I when I went in, I kind of went in on a pincer movement, and then for whatever reason I dialed in the wrong maneuver. I dialed in a 3 Talon. So the block I had on Braylon, because we were pretty even, he was ahead by 5 points at that point, but I stupidly taloned my in one and then got it out of the fight, and that sunk that game 100%. I probably still would have lost, but that one would have been a lot closer.
Yeah.
And same way with, I went the wrong way with Barris at the end and didn't get the shot again on Braylon except for the range 0, and 2 dice don't do shit when he has 3 health left. And
Yeah, exactly.
my second loss was I did the same thing you did, and I jousted a interceptor swarm, which by the way, Gorin is the best. Like, Gorin is the best ship in Empire. Period. Better
Yes,
than
is.
Vader for the price point, hands
Mhm.
down. So that was that was my fault for jousting when I didn't need to joust, and I should have brought him through the rocks. But essentially, I jousted. I will say they took 2 ships off the board in first engagement, and this was chance encounter. So I lost 2 ships every time they shot. It took their whole swarm to kill them, but with those 2 ships, I rolled 2 evades out of every shot, out of all 6 shots for that. Literally 2 evades.
Wow.
So yeah, it's pretty easy to take that off the board. So that kind of put me behind in that game, and that's kind of why that one spiraled out of control as fast. In the second event that we played, the redemption event, I went 3-1-0. I had a 1 tie with a like-minded FO list, and yes, we're going to talk about ties tonight because I am going to be a very vocal opponent of ties, especially in competitive play. In local play, don't give a shit. Whatever, move on. In tournament play, I despise it. I cannot stand it, and that'll be a big. That's like my my beef that I have, like, very largely with how the competitive event went. Um, Especially because I've played only in 2 tournaments, but I've played probably over hundreds and hundreds of X-Wing games. I guess I played in online tournaments, right? So I played in 10 to 12 tournaments. Not once has any of my tournament games ever gone to final salvo, ever. But in this new scenario format, I had 2 games tie, 2 of them. And ironically, they were against mirror matches, by the way, or almost likewise mirror matches. So there was that. I played FO for my second list, and by the way, I'm going to keep that list in my kit because that was a very fun list to play. I played I think it's Whirlwind is the whisper, and you get you get a focus token for every enemy ship in front of you. And the most hilarious thing is when I had 4 one of those big focus tokens that I'll show you in a minute, just sitting out surrounding them. And you put advanced optics, which by the way, JJ, was 100% the right call. Every time an advanced optics triggered, every time. So cluster missiles, advanced optics, cluster missile, advanced optics.
I told you, man. I told you that was that's the secret sauce there for that particular build, because that advanced optics just helps generate so much more offense, especially if you have all those focuses. It's really good.
Yeah. All right. So that was kind of on a high level our tournament experience. Why don't we get into our pictures? So we do that, and I feel bad. Anybody that's watching or listening to the stream, you'll have to forgive me. But we're gonna show us some pictures. So there's day one. There's me Thursday morning, very little sleep, tired, walking around the convention, looking at shit I'm gonna buy. Before we decided to play. In a duos tournament, which by the way was really amazing. So here's the duos tournament. There's I don't remember. Oh, the guy in the middle was my teammate. And the way the duos worked is they essentially you got paired up randomly with a different person each round. Now, here's the funny thing. Some of the people here were playing some of their lists for Saturday. So Donald, who made Top Cut, for example, I played with him. We did not win. That's probably because I played droids. I played 4 droids and Grievous because I thought that'd be fun. But he I got a preview of what his list did, and he was talking about all the tech, and then I think he finally realized he's like, all right, well, just don't say anything to anyone, okay? I was like, don't worry, I'm not gonna ruin your FL list. So this was game one, and this was fun. There's one of my teammates, Sean, playing duos on stream. His list was disgusting, and we'll get to that and why later. Yep, there's our game one. So here's my Grievous. There's the Decimator. There's the Ghost. There's all the droids. Plus, this guy had 4 whatchamacallit, X1s, and Zyrtec had his fancy thread tracer. So I lost 2 droids before he got his thread tracers off, but then I had 2 droids I1s that had double calculated target locks. So that was fun. That was fun. I like that. Here's some of the other guys from the Brew Squadron. So this is our local group. Unfortunately, none of them made cut. There is Nick Sperry, Colfax, Greg, JJ, and myself. So this is before we left. We decided to take a picture together. I think we hung out with Greg at least once that weekend off site, and Colfax at least twice. So
yeah, it was a great night. That was actually the night after the cut. It was or after Swiss. We were all like so freaking exhausted, and actually no, I'm sorry, it was the night before. Yeah, it was the night before, because we had to like get there early to register for or rather to sign up or sign in to make sure we get all of our stuff for the Swiss cut. And yeah, we went out to eat the night before. That was a lot of fun. Yeah.
Yep. And there's me and JJ. And there's me and JJ and Sean dropping JJ off at the airport. Here's a good picture of JJ. Me making sure he knows the Giants suck. Oh, here's the second picture where I tell him the Giants suck when I take a picture. So it's a tradition now. Every time he's gonna hear about how much the Giants suck. I might even put that in the intro overlay. So, all right. So here's round 1 of my game, and I only took this picture and I only edited it in here, and this is for objective play. Notice how close he had to put my objective. So I was first player. I won the roll off. I placed here. He put his in the center, which seems to be like the common place that everybody wants to put him. And then when I placed his right as far to the top as I could. And what that meant is he couldn't place mine at the top or mine at the top over here. So if you bring your first one in a slight bit, they have to put your second one in closer, which is either good or bad, depending on the scenario. For the scenario where you have to have ships around it, unless you have a swarm, it's not super great. But yeah. So anyway, I went ahead and put those in there because that's going to be a topic of discussion that we have coming up here in the next couple of weeks. Here is the awful breakfast that the hotel served that I did not eat because by the way, those are not eggs. Those are supposed to be tater tots or hash browns, I guess. And I added the pepper. I added it. Like that's ugh, it
Yeah,
makes me nauseous.
our hotel was very lively, to put nicely. We also ended up getting stuck in the elevator a few times, which was kind of scary because you just never knew when you were going to get out.
I never got stuck in the elevator once.
You were
But
lucky.
I was
You were
lucky,
indeed
and
lucky.
JJ and I did scale the stairs at least
Oh
once
yeah.
or twice. Because we didn't want to get stuck in the elevator.
Oh heck no.
So we did some warm up pods too. If anybody knows Josh Chung, please reach out. I don't know what his Twitch or his Discord name is,
Discord
but
handle.
if anybody knows it, I owe him 2 tickets or like an alt art card. So if somebody gets a hold of him and messages him, tells him the message, Plenty Face Syndicate or Christopher Tanner, I owe him a card. So he can't have my Guri card, that one, or my Braylon card. Those are the 2 I will not give up. But I do owe him a card, and because he left halfway through this, and I held his tickets, and I could not find him on Saturday to save my life. So if anybody knows him, make sure he gets a hold of me. I do owe him. Warm up pods were very fun. I went 2-1 in warm up pods, so that was fun.
Yeah, I think I went. Yeah, I think I went 3-0. I think the last game came to like the final round, and I won by like a point or two. But yeah, that was very very fun. The warmer pods.
So here's the loot. Ignore the Shovel Knight. I bought that. That was not a prize. That cost me like $100. Don't tell
Did you
anyone.
play it yet?
I have not. It's still sitting on my table. It's waiting for my son to come home this weekend.
Okay.
Because that's like his favorite game, kind of. And my daughters, they all play that together. So I bought the board game version of it. I hope to God it's good. For what I paid for it, I thought it was gonna be this like tiny little box. No. It's a big effing square. So
Nice.
it's cool. So I won a Sith Infiltrator if anybody wants to buy one. I won an RZ2A. The template tray was from Making Top 4 on Sunday. And then these are all the alt art cards I bought, minus the Grievous and the Fanatical. Those were handed out to me. Those focus tokens are metal. They are amazing. Like, they are the best thing. I should have bought more of them. I'm very sad I don't have more focus tokens. But
Yeah, I kind of hesitated on it because I was like, yeah, they look good, but I don't know. And then after like seeing it on the table, I was like, dang, now I got to go get it. And then they were completely gone. They were like gone on like day 2, right?
they sold out on Saturday. So
Yeah.
but it probably, I think people were redeeming them throughout the day. I bought mine on Friday. I had 7 tickets and I bought 6 of them. I figured I wouldn't need more than 6 that often. But then on Saturday or on Sunday, I didn't use them Saturday. I used them on Sunday, and I could have used more of them because of Whirlwind. So when she had 4 herself, it made sense.
Yeah.
And that's just another shot. I don't know why I put duplicates. So, this Poe card was a giveaway too. That was not a purchase, and that Wedge card was a giveaway. Some of these are really cool. The Ahsoka Tano one is a dual card. That's probably my favorite one, minus the Guri card. I really like that
Yeah.
card, and I will run Ahsoka and Barriss till they nerf them. There's the Guri card and the Nora Wexley card, and again, I'll play both of those ships at some point. Guri's upside down, it looks like, but those are really cool looking. I got the Obi-Wan as well, so I'm excited to play that as well. I
gotta say that just in general, I think that this this tournament had a lot of prize support. Even if you weren't making like top cut, there's a lot of ships being given out randomly. Dion would just go to table every once in a while and just say roll dice, and whoever like rolls a crit gains that ship for free, and he did it right there on the spot. He even did that during the redemption tournament. Also giving out the new white objective tokens for playing there in the Swiss round. That was really nice, and also the 1.5 ruler. Those are really nice, and I keep them in my arsenal now. And then just overall, just interacting with the community, I think that they just did a solid job of just doing the best that they can. I mean, I know that a lot of times during the tournament, he was like completely like his voice was like gone just from like talking constantly, but he still gave it his all, And they did a fantastic job.
So the tokens on the left, I don't know what those are, but we won those on Sunday. The dark side tokens, I did buy those.
Yeah,
Those
same
are
here. I bought
$5,
those.
and I bought those because they look amazing,
Yeah,
and I will use them for something. I have no idea.
Vader or Kylo,
Vader, Kylo, maybe.
Asajj.
I know it's Asajj. Oh, they could be used for Ahsoka too, technically, because she was in that temple.
Or Dooku.
Maul, Dooku, anybody. So they were really cool. And then the template tray. Actually, because the template tray I have is built into my portable kit. I don't actually have a genuinely larger template tray. And I think what I'm going to do is switch up what I use at locals and use that tray and go from there. So sad thing is it doesn't fit my 1.5 ruler in there. So
Yeah, I know that I kind of get triggered every time I'm trying to put that away because it doesn't fit anywhere. So I'm
yep.
like, like I got to find another storage solution for it.
All right. So what do you want to do next, JJ? Do you want to talk about experience or do you want to run through lists real quick?
Let's go through the list. Let's do it.
All right. Okay, so I did breakdowns, and I think this is important. And you know what? This is probably more important to that conversation that we're gonna have about 2.5 and all of that here in a few minutes. And I know Charles is not here tonight, so some of this will be talked a little bit about next Sunday as well. But I wanted to go through the numbers tonight because I think it's important. So they had 185 total people that played, and 19 people made cut. So essentially 10.2% made cut. Just a little bit over 10% is what the cut rate was. They did do a 5-1. You could not go 4-1. You could only go 5-1. And they didn't care if it was a draw or a loss, but you could not have, you had to have 5 wins. And we'll get into that in a little bit, whether I like that or not. So the two lists, Rebel and Republic, tied. They both had 50-50 lists. The next one was Empire, followed by First Order, Scum, Resistance, and Separatist. Now, the two factions that did not make cut at all was Resistance and Scum. I don't think that's any shocker to anyone there. Though there was a Scum list that did come close to making cut, so there is that. Hey, Colfax. And out of the top cut, 3 Empire made it, 2 First Order, 6 Rebels, 7 Republic, and 1 Separatist. And yes, I'm excited by the Separatist list, though I'm not going to probably play it because I don't like Sun Fact. So if we're going to be honest. So then I broke kind of down the top cut percentage, the faction percentage, and their top cut rate, right? So obviously First Order did better than their faction percent. Empire did worse, but not by much. Rebel did better. Republic did extremely well. And then Separatists, obviously, when you only have 9 lists and one of them makes cut, there you go. That's an easy one.
Yeah.
Hey, Colfax, did you lose to Donald? Is that who you lost to? So I will say the next set of numbers I did it is, yeah, and Donald was a good player. I feel bad for you, Colfax, because Donald told me his strategy ahead of time, but I couldn't tell anyone. because I played with Donald in duels, and that dude is a really nice guy, by the way.
Yeah.
Anyway, so this was the breakdown. So what I did is I said, okay, if we go back and let's compare, and I know people are going to be like, why are we comparing 2.0 to 2.5? I want to look at faction rates versus cuts, right? So Empire at the beginning of 2021 was 16.5%. They dropped off at the end of 21, right? Because of the fact that they got nerfed quite heavily. And then this time they came back. Now, the diversity in Empire lists was very slim. There's only one that stands out that's very different than some of the other lists, and we'll get to that one. Their cut rate, again, is very similar to the same as the beginning of last year. First Order was, in terms of cut rate, they got a little bit of a nerf, but I think that's more because there was a lot less lists that were being played. I don't think people thought bombers were going to be good. And I would actually challenge that. I think the bombers are in a primo place right here.
Yeah, agreed.
Rebel started out at 17 and 14. They almost doubled right in at the end of the year, and they were at almost 30% of the cut, and they just got stronger. They're now 31% of the cut.
They go up, but they keep on getting more and more toys, and in terms of like options available to them across the board with the ships that are standard legal, they're definitely just one of the top factions to go. I mean, it was hard not to go down the table and not see like Republic or Rebel list on the board because they're good.
And I won't lie, I was one of those suckers and ran a Republic list, and JJ ran a Rebel list. So just throwing it out there. We bought into the meta, and that's what we did. So
I mean, I was there the whole time, but yeah.
So Rebel got huge. Republic, we saw over a 50% jump, which I think was, again, if we look at points balancing, that's way too high of a jump, in my opinion. And then you see Resistance had been steady, and Resistance just dumped out. Same with Scum. Scum got nerfed in the end of the year last year, and they just kept going down. Now, again, Adepticon's one tournament, right? So you got to think this is all the GSP stuff versus the one. But still, as of right now, we don't have a bunch of major tournaments coming up. This is the numbers. And then Separatists, as you can see, continue to decline in their numbers as well. So this is just, and maybe this is just because of the job I have, but so I broke it down into a fancy little graph for y'all. And so you can kind of see the discrepancy and the disparities between the numbers. So it just all it does is kind of show you, the same thing we looked at before, but in a visual, which looks nicer.
Yeah. Now, to me, the most interesting part of this graph here is just the difference between the Resistance and the First Order, right? These are two of the sequel factions that came out that have not as much ships as the other factions. There's less options available, and yes, they do have quite a few pilots in the chassis that they have, specifically like the Silencer or like the FO fighter, TIE fighter, and the TIE SF. They do have quite a lot of different pilots there where they can fill out a list. But in terms of like different chassis available, it's not as diverse as the original trilogy factions. Yet First Order did very, very well in the tournament, and Resistance it just didn't pan out. I mean, there were a few Resistance lists that I saw on the tables out there, but nothing really kind of like stuck out. And I think it's just the lack of options for those factions, but it's just weird that Resistance is affected a little bit more than the First Order. And I think it's probably because the First Order has the accessibility to a command ship like the Sea Shuttle, whereas the Resistance doesn't have that availability.
Yep. And I think the standout here is Rebel has had huge jumps in the last two cycles, and then Republic just buried everything. So it shows you where they either lacked playtesting or where they chose to just allow things to go through. I won't say which it was because I wasn't a playtester this time. So yeah, so those are the numbers. We're gonna burn through the list pretty quickly because they're way too similar. Nathan Iden or Iden, I don't know how to say
ID,
his name.
yeah.
Iden. He was the winner of the whole thing. In a what was it, a 2 or 3 round final cut game?
It was a 3-rounder, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so he went with Anakin in the Y Wing with I don't know. The shattering shot is the standout. There you go. He's got the ion
Yeah.
cannon on the side, proton torpedoes, and shattering shot. The funny thing is we've outside of the afterburners, this has been a ship that we've been running in Aces High. Just so you know, like this is like the Anakin in the Y Wing has had very good success in Aces High. It
Yeah.
really has.
Yeah, we pretty much face a very similar list. I think the only difference was what instinctive aim and something else. And in Aces High on the first day that we were there, and it did really, really well on its own. And you add that kind of ship to a list like this, it's really going to stand out.
Yeah. Obi and the Ada with the crit bot. Yep. Ahsoka with compassion and chopper. Barrice. Barrice. He's a barista. Yeah. Barriss, Ophi with instinctive aim, concussion missiles, and calibrated laser targeting. And Contrail, which Contrail, and it's another conversation we're gonna have in a few minutes. That's I don't know. An I2 for 2 points is just insanely good.
I5 for 2 points. Yeah.
Yeah. Think about it this way. My last game, we lined the majority of our ships up in the middle in the other board. And in fairness, like we had almost a mirror match. He had a Hawk, whereas I had the V-Wings. But we both lined our contrails up to get the objectives on the other side. And it was literally player roll-off. Who's going to get close enough to get the objective? And who's going to get the who's going to shoot, right? We both take the one objective. I take it first, and then literally our contrails just kind of circled each other, taking the objective back and forth from each other for the whole effing game until my contrail got bored and ran away. So once my contrail got bored, I stupidly left him over there by himself. Anyway, Marcel Manzano was the runner-up. He ran Gina with Selfless, which I believe, I don't know if he's ever triggered that. I can't imagine that triggered.
In the GSP podcast, he said that he remembered it like in the 5th game and then forgot about it for the rest of the tournament.
Yeah. He ran a TS with Seismics and Jamming Beam. Netrum Pollard with Ion Bombs. Derek with Vector Cannons. Lieutenant Blount. Mag Va Yarrow in the Y-Wing. And I think that's got to be his secret sauce right there, is that specific ship. And then Shara Bay in the A-Wing with crack shot, thread tracers, and vector cannons. Pretty solid list, but I think Margot is the ace, not the ace, but the
utility ship there that helps find it. Yeah, definitely. And for people who are not familiar with Magvar Yara, her ability affects all her friendlies that are near her, I believe within range 2 of her. It basically prevents the enemies from re-rolling more than 1 dice on attacks, which if you're rolling like a proton torpedo and you roll only 1 hit and 3 blanks, that's going to feel bad, especially if you just re-roll 1 die and it ends up becoming on blank again. That really limits your offensive potential.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, does it work on themselves too?
No, it's enemy ships.
Okay, so there's no downside to it at all.
Nope, not at all.
And it's cheap. It's 5 points.
Yeah, it's a really solid ship for that particular list, and it acts as their Leia carrier as well. and also in Marcel's list a Sabine carrier as well in the same ship, and it's a 3-die attacker that can move around pretty well with contraband cybernetics. There was a tactic that he was talking about on GSP stream where he can essentially do like keep Magva in the same place for about 4 turns. He could Leia and then full stop, then stop on the next turn, then contraband cybernetic stop, and then on the 4th turn he can Leia again, and then on the 5th turn he can finally move. So once he gets Magva where she needs to be, he could just have her sit there the entire game. And if you think about it, 4 turns, that's basically the entire game. That's really, really strong for that particular ship.
Yep. All right. Now onto our top 4. We had another Republic list. This one with Anakin in the Ada, basically the same loadout as before, the crit bot loadout. Wolf, with crack shot, RP or R4P17 and a hull upgrade. Barris Ophi, same setup. Contrail, with Esk for whatever reason, which I bet you was a mistake. And
yeah.
Then Click with proton bombs, hull upgrade, and Besh. I am not, again, I like my cluster mines better, and I liked my dual locks. But I can see how having 1 extra health would be very beneficial, like highly beneficial, because everybody wanted to go after my Click every time because of the cluster mines. Nobody wanted those cluster mines. One time, the first game they went after Click versus Wolf, and then just left Wolf alone. And here comes Wolf, right in and saying, "Oh, you have a crate? No more. You have a crate? No more." There goes my mag pulse.
Yeah, it's really good.
The next one is Courtney Moore from the Rebel Alliance Rebel again, with Istaban. With Elusive and Lando Calrissian, Veteran Tail Gunner, and Chopper, which I don't know what that Chopper does because I've never seen anybody run Chopper in Rebels.
Chopper is actually a really good upgrade in 2.5. So Chopper allows you to, if you bump an enemy, you can take a damage to perform an action. Now, in 2.5 rules, normally when you bump somebody, you can only take that red focus action. If you're on an objective and you trigger Chopper, you can take a damage and still claim that objective if it's still available. So that's really, really good. It basically makes Ibitstam unblockable when it comes to capturing objectives. And now they can't really mod against you if they're doing a range 0 shot. So that's still really good.
And then she had Gina throwing proton bombs, basically. Adirial 2 tubes in the X-Wing, which I don't even know what his ability does. I'm assuming it's just the initiative that they wanted and the cost.
It's the cost. So Edger 2 tubes, if he ends up with a focus before he activates, he gets to perform an action. So it's really good, but I think the only way to trigger it is with Benthic, which he does have in the list as well.
Yep. And he has Benthic with Yarrow as well. And does the Yarrow crew upgrade do the same thing as
it does not?
Okay.
So the Magva Yarrow crew on Rebels allows the ship to acquire lock on the attacker whenever they get attacked. So if you decide to try to take out Benthic, he's going to get modded and have a really good shot on you. So yeah.
All right. Top 8. We have another Republic list. JJ.
Yeah, we got John Babcock here running Obi-Wan Kenobi in the Aether Sprite with Patience, Instinctive Aim, Concussion Missiles, CLT, Plo Koon in the Delta 7 with Patience, R2-D2, Ion Missiles, and Calibrated Targeting. Quick note on R2-D2, this is anti-bomb tech here, because after you fully execute a maneuver, you can spend a charge on R2 to remove bomb off the board, or you can use it for regen or recovering a hole on your ship. So if you are going to be next to like a proton bomb or blazer bomb, you can use R2D2 to take that off the board, and that's really really good.
And it's not just for you. You're taking that bomb off the board for all of your ships.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. And then to fill out the list, Barris Ophi with Instinctive Aim, Concussions, and CLT, Contrail with Besh, Wolf and the Arc 170 with Expert Handley, 7th Fleet Gunner, and R4P.
And I like that expert handling. I think that's kind of cool to see on an arc, especially because how often do arcs barrel roll? Not very often.
Yep.
Here is the first unique list we get to see. Steve Catillo is running Leighton D with Ion Cannon, Hull Upgrade, and the MGK 300. Nash with Shield and Sensitive Controls. Lieutenant Lore with Outmaneuver, Hull Upgrade, Sensitive Controls. Commander Goran with Predator, Shield Upgrade, and Sensitive Controls. And Pierre Sabak with Elusive, Counter Nets, and Shield Upgrade. This is definitely probably the most unique Empire list. I'm assuming that Steve took Leighton D and just kind of put him in the middle, threw Nash and Goran by there, and Goran gets to break a lock. So if you want to go after Leighton D, he's going to go no more lock, and here's a free evade. 100% Goran, especially if you're running lower initiative ships, Goran is the best ship. And it's like the new Soon's Hair fell. There you go. Charles will have a new ship he can hate. Though this one I feel is almost worse. Like it sucks when Soon's Hair can outmaneuver you and throw 4 dice into you, but it sucks even worse when Goran goes no more locks on whatever ship you need the lock to be on.
Yeah, on one of my matches that I had that I lost, I faced a similar Goran swarm with a bunch of alphas, and I severely underestimated the power level of Goran because originally, as I understood it, you had to remove a red token in order for you to give the evade. But it was ruled at Adepticon that you do not need to meet that requirement, that you can still just give an evade to a ship, even if they had no red tokens on them. So just to give a ship jet free evade, that priority evade, really, really powerful for the Empire.
Yeah. You got to focus evade. Every one of those, whatever interceptor. Oh, you're going to die. Here's focus evade.
Mm-hmm.
Don't die and get a shot. Ugh. The next one is from Kyrian. And JJ, you can read.
Yep, absolutely. So he was running the Rebel Alliance. He had Shara Bay here in the Arc 170 with Proton Torpedoes, Ibit Dam in the Arc 170 with Hopeful and Leia Organa, Thane Kyrell in the T65 with Crackshot, Ion Torpedoes, Iron Kraken in the Z95 with Passive Sensors and Ion Torpedoes, Lieutenant Blount also in the Z95, and then Derek Clivian with Vectored Cannons. So a lot of great like cheap ships and some heavy hitters there with Shara Bay and Thane Kyrell.
All right. The next Empire list is essentially it's a Tempest and Zeteric Storm Swarm with Nash and Goran. They did put electronic baffle on Nash, which I thought was interesting. I'm not quite sure why they would do that personally.
I think just to fill out points, honestly.
Okay.
Yeah, because once you put in tracers, you only have 2 points left. So for that chassis, there's nothing else really to put it in. So in a pinch, if you do need to like K-turn to like outmaneuver somebody, you can always take a damage and baffle to take off that stress. But yeah.
And that's fair. I would have put munitions failsafe in case the tracers didn't hit.
Yeah, that's a good one.
But that's just me. Elusive on Commander Goran just makes him even more powerful.
Oh, yeah, by far.
Top 16, there's nothing unique about this other than they have AP5 with K2SO and R4, which I think is similar to what you ran. Gina, Tennub, Lieutenant Blount, all of them are throwing bombs. Derek and Sabine, which I saw Sabine in an A-Wing and thought that was kind of cool. That was something I'd not thought we would see a lot of. But essentially, she's loaded out to throw the torpedoes with Mandalorian optics, which is really good for her. So,
Yeah.
Oh, you want to read the next
Yep.
list?
So the next one here we have Francisco Matas in the Galactic Republic, flying another variant of the Republic Swarm. We got Ahsoka Tano in the Delta 7 with R7A7 predictive shot and our shield upgrade. Axe in the V19 Torrent with barrage rockets, munitions failsafe, and elusive swoop with ion missiles, munitions failsafe, and snapshot. Tucker with cluster missiles, the threat tracers, and munitions failsafe with Predator. That particular combo is really nice for the Republic because you can essentially have the attacks done by axe and swoop, giving Tucker the focus that he needs to either do tracers and get a double modded shot if he needs to. Typically, you're going to give him either an evade token with a barrel roll or just a target lock, and he's all set to go. But at I2, shooting off cluster missiles in a bunch formation, he's going to do some damage at I2, so he's really good. And then to round off the list, Contrail with Besh and thermal detonators.
How did he put thermals on
I'm
Contrail?
not sure how he
this
got
is
that
illegal.
Yeah, I know. I was thinking the same exact thing as I was reading it. Yeah. Judge.
Yeah, Judge. All right. The only separatist list brought in was Doug Howe with bombardment drones, 3 of them, all with proxies, delayed fuses. One with cluster mines and counter nets. Then they had Suntac or Sunfac with Ensnare, Predator, and Afterburners. And this is similar to the trajectory B-Wing stuff that JJ was doing with Sabine, using that tractor token. That's the idea with this one. And then Grievous with outmaneuver impervium plating, Afterburners, and Solus 1, which I would say is probably the preferred Grievous loadout that we have now.
Hey, didn't that win you an Aces High, right?
It did
that
win me an Aces High, yes.
Yeah, really strong.
Yeah. Grievous, yeah, I love Grievous. Grievous is my favorite ship to fly. Anyway, so I like this list. All of those, essentially what they're doing is those drones are going in, dropping bombs to ruin your objectives and force you to either take bomb damage or not. If you joust it and they live, you're going to regret it. There'll be so many bombs.
Yep, absolutely. And if you're thinking about trying to go sneak in and grab an objective and try to run away, those bombardment drones are going to give you some presence on your way out. So, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, just because the best part is that delayed fuses, right? With those,
yeah,
you throw your proxy mine in front of you, put a delayed fuse on, go through it, takes the delayed fuse off, and then they have to go through it.
Exactly. Yep.
Really good. I do have a weird question, and I guess he doesn't have delayed fuses on the middle one. But if you put them on cluster mines, does it put it on all 3 or just one of them?
It does put it on all 3, yes.
Okay. That's probably why he's not running it, because that would be very silly. It would be very hard to take those off, and then they're not going to be effective.
Yeah.
I like the list. Next, we have Kyle. Oh, you look, another Republic list. Go ahead, JJ.
So Kyle running the Republic with Obi-Wan Kenobi in the Delta 7 with Instinctive Aim, Concussion Missiles, R3, and CLT. Contrail with just Besh and no bomb. I want to point that out. Anakin Skywalker in the N1 Starfighter with passive sensors, R2C4, and proton torpedoes. R2C4, I believe, is the droid that lets you spend an evade to change a focus into a hit. Barriss Ophi in the Delta 7 with Instinctive Aim, Concussion Missiles, and Calibrated Laser. And Hawk in the LAT with dedicated barrage rockets and Ayla Sakura. I'm actually more surprised that we didn't see more of this list out there. But this is a solid list with Hawk just providing that really good fire support with barrage rockets and Ayla. Ayla giving you that focus coordinate really strong.
Yeah, Ayla 100%. Like, I don't know. Anyway, that's the topic for a different day. So, this is a similar list to what the people in my group were running. So the Brew Squadron was running. They weren't running Obi or Anakin, but they did have Contrail, Hawk, and Barris, and then they were running Plo Koon, and either Obi, Plo Koon, and Anakin. I mean, they had a bunch of different variations on it, but that's what the group that I was with was running. Was it? So I've played against a similar version of this list for the last 2 months. It's been super fun.
Super.
Super fun. I hate the Hawk, and the idea is they protect it. And if you could get behind the Hawk and kill it, it's that's the only way to outpoint that list, really. Their effing ability to instinctive aim with 3 force. Oh no, I spent a force to shoot a concussion missile, and I have a focus, and sometimes a target lock too, and it's just, I don't know. There's just so many crappy things they can do.
Yeah.
Nerf Jedi.
So the next one here is Phil Newth in the Rebel Alliance running Hera Syndulla. This is the first iteration of her that we've seen so far, with marksmanship, auto blasters, plasma torpedoes, hull upgrades, stabilized foils, and the title that lets her have Ezra Bridger Gunner. Nora Wexley with the ARC 170 with expert handling Maul and the hull upgrade, which putting Maul on Nora, fantastic idea. I love that.
Hilarious.
Ibit Stam with expert handling, Tristan Wren and hull upgrade, Lieutenant Blount and the Z, Derek Killivian with vectored cannons. So that interaction first with Hera, when I first was looking at it, I was like, other than giving Hera a force point, there's really no interaction because Ezra only works in turret arcs. But giving that availability to put Maul now inside of Nora Wexley in the ARC 170, that makes Nora really, really good. I actually enjoy that because that the dial on the ARC 170s is just really good, and she can go slow as much as she wants, and just take off that stress that she gets from regenerating the force. So this is a really, really interesting list. I definitely like this idea of putting Maul in there.
Yep, I do too. And I will say I will consider this a unique list just because of that tech right there. That's really good, especially on Nora.
Absolutely.
And I will say in 2.0, this was never possible. Like nobody you wouldn't have thought to run that. But now it's really good. So
yeah, absolutely.
All right. Donald Williams ran Grudge with elusive ATP, electrochafe missiles, skilled bombardier and proxies, Dread with electro chafe missiles again, skilled bombardier and proxies, Whirlwind with marksmanship predator, proton rockets, sensor scramblers, and the sweet Nightfall with exact same loadout, and then Gideon Hask with marksmanship, fanatical, bio, hex, crypt codes, Agent Terex, and Commander Pryor. And I will say the Commander Pryor and Agent Terex on Gideon, that is the list right there. I'm not sold on the proton rockets per se. I mean, he obviously did very well. And I guess if you can get that, if you're shooting electrochafe missiles that round and somebody hits it, can't get mods, but you can't take a target lock on them, I could see why the prockets work really well. I just don't have good luck with prockets on those things, unless you're able to take the lock ahead of time.
Yeah, with the Whispers, you definitely want to run them in like a Snaggle 2 formation, so that way you trigger the bullseye a lot more often and helps you get the proton rockets off. Typically, with Gideon Hask giving the coordinates out, they can worry about reposition a lot easier, and then just going in for that proton rocket shot there. The only change I would have made for Gideon Haas is getting rid of the biohex crypt codes and marksmanship or proud tradition, so that way Terex or Haas can stop and still get a focus. But still, biohex crypt codes are really good to just coordinate, like past range too, and giving them that boost that they need. So yeah.
Yep. Essentially, you first phase, you're locking one of your whispers. That's what you're doing, right? That way you
Yeah,
can
exactly.
coordinate wherever you want.
Yeah, and just like Deslin said, you could fly into your own chaff cloud and prevent the B wings from double tapping you because they can't lock you either. So that's actually really smart. I like that a lot.
Yep. I like this list. I ran a similar. I didn't run the bombers, but I ran a similar list to this on Sunday. Cormac Higgins with Anakin in the ETA, basically crit bot Anakin. Contrail with no bombs,
No bombs.
by the way. Click with elusive R3, Connernet, and Besh. Mace with R4, P17, Compassion, Predictive Shot, and Ahsoka Tana with Chopper, basically. So this list is one ultra aggressive ship, and the rest of them are essentially designed to tank and take objectives. So I like this list too. It's definitely a little bit different, but still, how many Bloody Republic lists do we have to go through?
Right.
Next, baby.
Travis Johnson in the Republic, in the Rebels rather. Luke Skywalker, first look of him actually here in the top cut, running with instinctive aim, outmaneuver, proton torpedoes, R3 astromech, afterburners, then Chewbacca with hopeful Baze, Ursa Wren, Bistan, Millennium Falcon, and Sabine Wren within the A-wing, with outmaneuver, Predator, ion missiles, and optics. And then Derek Clivian in the A-wing. I think this is the list that Sean was playing against. That he just basically sent Chewbacca right up the middle, and just held the middle because he just could like ignore all the crits because he could flip a crit every turn, and just shoot double tap with Bistan and Base Malbus, and get really good shots off. So yeah.
Yep, this is a very good list. I'm not sold on the outmaneuver on Sabine, but I do like it on Luke. I think it's spicy. With Luke having that amount of ability to do things, and really, if they throw bombs at you, who cares, right? Like,
Yeah,
what does it matter if they throw bombs at you? Oh no,
exactly.
Chewbacca's gonna take 1 damage. Ooh, not gonna hurt
Yeah,
him.
absolutely.
All right, so the next two lists, I don't know where all these came from.
We'll stop at the top 16, so we'll just end it there.
Why did I say top 32?
You're probably just thinking of it.
I added a whole bunch of lists in there. None of them are unique at all, except for if you get down to the two that didn't make cut. So Crispy, if you know him from the GSP streams or from Greg's channel, he plays on there a lot. He played a First Order list, again, very similar, except for Ember's in there, which I don't care what anybody says. I like Ember. Ember is probably one of my new favorite FO ships. Like really good. And then we had another Separatist list, baby, that should have made top cut that did not because they had one draw, and they had 2 Bactoids with Discord missiles and energy charges, 3 bombardment drones with cluster mines, counter nets, and General Grievous with the exact same loadout. I like this list a lot, and I will 100% be playing on this list, except for I probably switch up Discords to something else, but I don't know. And if you go to our Discord, I posted a picture, I believe, in our Discord of dropping cluster mines and counter nets while just sitting on a rock by an objective. Like it's so nasty. You have to fly so close to those things. Just so
That was a
close to those things.
that was a good game last night that you played on NCX. I really actually enjoyed it.
Yeah, the difference between this list and that list on NCX that I played is I played Bo-Katan and the Gauntlet, and that's because I'm now moving on to new meta because we're going to be getting on them, and I want to make CIS great again somehow. With my red shirt, I guess it's actually orange, not red, but I really want CIS to be able to have some toys, and it's sad not seeing them in the cuts as much as before.
Yeah, I mean, but that's just the. It's still early, right? We're still trying to figure out this meta. I mean, we've had 2.5 now for what, 2 months, and no, actually more like a month and a half. And this is the first that we're seeing of like the meta here. Obviously, everybody did flock over to Rebel and Resistance because of the options that they have over there. But I still think there's a lot of combos out there that we're not seeing. A lot of things that can come out that just is going to take a dedicated person to put time to play test and put effort into and do very well. I mean, I was one of the people who didn't expect much from Separatists, and heck, they made the cut, and that was a heck of a list. That's a great idea how they built that list.
Yeah, I think with the with Bo-Katan coming in, there is opportunities abound. Especially because you could put super commandos on her.
Yeah, absolutely.
And once you can put super commandos on her, that's 2 more little ships shooting things.
Yeah.
That frees up your other ships to take the actions they need versus staying alive. Right? Um so yeah. So now what I wanted to get into a little bit is as we wrap up here, right, is to talk through our ideas, right? Things that our experiences per se. I mean, we told you a little bit about how we felt, kind of the fun we had. Um, but we have, I don't, I, it's constructive criticism, I guess, is the way you would technically talk about it in business. Um, there was a lot of really good things that happened. I mean, I'll tell you what, I've never been to that big of a tournament for X-Wing ever. Which is funny because JJ's like, you're gonna hate it because you're not used to playing. And I'll tell you what, we had to get up early on Saturday to get there, and I didn't like it because I had to leave the hotel to get breakfast because our hotel breakfast sucked. And then I did not get a lunch, basically, because every one of my games went to time. I had to do cleanup afterwards, and JJ luckily door dashed us lunch. We had Portillo's, which is my favorite restaurant in Chicago, hands down. I don't care what anyone says. I got 2 Chicago dogs. Um, mm, that was oh my god. The worst was it got there. I had enough time to eat one of them, and then we had to go to the next game.
Yeah.
I didn't
Yeah,
get it.
I sat there. I'm like, I'm not moving until I finish my sandwich, and I just ran to like set up. Yeah, absolutely.
You got lucky because I got one down, went to game 4, and then because my game 4 ended early, I was able to eat another one. Or no, my game 5 ended early, so I didn't get to eat again until my game 5.
Oh man, yeah, that's a while, man. Because we what stopped at game 3 to order, and then
Yep.
wow,
Yep, because
jeez.
game 4 I lost, game 5 I won, and I won well before time with that. And that's the one I ate the hot dog afterwards. And then everybody's giving me shit, you're gonna get sick from that. I'm like, at this point, I ain't got no food in my belly, so
Hey, it didn't have mayo. Okay,
it didn't
so
have mayo, so it didn't have mayo, it didn't have ketchup, it didn't have I don't know what was on it that would give me gut rot. So and hot dogs are what, like fortified with like embalming fluid and shit like that. So like I think we're good.
yeah, you're fine.
And no, Greg, I got the pizza on Friday. No, on Thursday, and never once again ate that. And I got the chicken fingers on Saturday or on Friday, and that was a mistake too. Never will do that again. I will not. I gave Sean so much shit because he brought like food with him, and then now I go next time when we stay at the hotel, I'm bringing a little my extra bag of snacks is not going to be a backpack. It's going to be this tiny little like soft cooler, and I'm gonna have my, salami and turkey Italian sandwich, and I'm just gonna keep the dressing on the side. Italian dressing, it doesn't have to be cold. No I don't eat mayo, so it doesn't matter for mayo. I ate half a bag of beef jerky. How about that? I did that. That was good.
Yeah.
You had
Yeah.
some of the beef jerky. You had some of my
Yes.
beef.
It was definitely a lifesaver because all I had were Cheez-Its. So yeah, definitely.
I did bring the beef jerky because that's like I'm working through my diet, and that's like my go-to snack food. And I knew the rest of the weekend my diet was going to be shot no matter what I did, between the alcohol and not being able to eat at real restaurants. So Saturday night, we did get to go out Saturday night at like 11 o'clock at fucking night to the sit-down restaurant, but I got to get some grilled chickens with some bruschetta. I got me some green beans, a salad and mashed potatoes. It was good.
It was good. Yeah.
Whew. I'm hungry. You're making me hungry, JJ. I already had dinner. I had green beans and steak and asparagus for dinner.
Healthy food. Yes.
Yeah, I gotta lose some weight here before we have to go to tournaments in the summer where I sweat my ass off. So I would like to lose like 20 pounds, and then maybe I'll sweat a little bit less.
Yeah.
All right. So let's start. So I'll start us off, and then we'll move to JJ. And what I wanted to do is talk a little bit about some of my experience. What was good, bad, things that should be changed immediately, that type of thing. That's kind of where we're gonna go for the rest of the hour here. And essentially, I think I think the tournament overall was great. The people were really good. I didn't run into very many people that I would never play again. There was some people that were more peculiar about things than I was. But overall, as a tournament, it felt similar to like what I had at Crossroads, with more room, actually. And Dion's daughter ran into my backpack, so there's that. She walked right into my backpack while I was standing there. And I felt bad, and I was like, sorry, maybe I shouldn't wear a backpack in here. Maybe I'll just keep it by my side. So even though it was crowded, it was very well done. I will say the side events went very well. Dion and team did a very, very, very good job at running the side events. And I will tell you, duos is immediately been adopted into our local, 100%. Like, we're actually talking about doing a full-on tournament, with we're working on prize support and stuff like that, for duos. That's how much we thought that format was great, and we liked it. We'll probably tweak it a little bit, especially because when you put two rebel lists with that stupid crew that what was that crew that allows you to get target locks when somebody target locks a friendly ship?
Ursa.
Yeah, Ursa needs to be fucking nerfed into the ground. But yeah, with the duels list and two people had it, and then the opposing team had one, it was like target lock, everybody gets a target lock. It was like that Spider-Man meme, except for it was with everybody else.
That's when Marco Yarrow on the U-Wing comes in handy, man. Her value went up because you can have all the target locks in the world, but you're only going to reroll one die. So that's it.
So overall, the all the different things are fun. In terms of that piece. So I think the tournament was run very well. I would recommend Dion in a heartbeat to run any other tournament that's out there. And some of you kind of wishes he would quit his job and somebody would hire him full time to just run tournaments. Because the only negative thing I had to say really about it, and it's really not even negative, is it was a little bit harder with prize support and running between events. That was a lot harder because I tried to go between events or between games on Saturday, and there just wasn't enough time for me personally because I didn't have an Alpha Strike list. So I did not get the time other people got to do that. So
yeah,
that would tournament wise, that was my experience.
Yeah, for me, what I felt went really, really well here is just seeing the amount of people that still have the interest to play. I know that when we got into like the physical like Swiss tourney, just seeing the amount of players going in and playing there. At the same time, we had Legion and Armada having their own games on the like next to us around us. But we still had a much larger presence in the game, with people actively wanting to play the game. There were a lot of newer players in the tourney that were playing at Adepticon. Just from me speaking to some of my opponents and some of the people on the tables around me, a lot of these people, this was like their first time coming to like a major tournament. They were still getting familiar with the 2.5 rules and the scenarios. But it was a lot of fun, just to meet a lot of the new people and just having a talk about the game and enjoying it. The other part that went really well, in my opinion, was objective play. I know that when objective play was first introduced, we all had concerns about how it was going to play in a scenario form, or the scenario format was going to play out in tournament play, but it still felt good. We still had a great time playing it. I felt it was still very competitive, and it did offer a different flavor than the standard deathmatch that we used to have all the time. While I still prefer having the deathmatch format over scenario play, it was definitely nice to have that option. That being said, um, the during the Swiss cut, when we were going in between rounds, they would announce like what the scenarios would be, and after playing them for a little bit, it felt it kind of felt repetitive after a bit. Like the scenarios just kind of tended to like blend in a little bit. So I think that going forward, we definitely should have at least two more scenarios that would help fill out a full 6 round tournament. So that way every round is different and help break out that monotony for like in between the rounds, and kind of give it a different feel. But beyond that, I think that there's also some tweaks that need to be done to certain objective points, to make them a little more fair, I want to say, and make the game a little bit better.
Yeah. So we could kind of get into that. There, again, the big thing here, right? It was the overall experience, and I agree with you. I think the objective play diversified it for me enough that I enjoyed it more than when I went to Crossroads.
Mhm.
Now, the difference is though, like you said, like being able to play the dogfight scenario almost seemed boring and harder to play. And I will tell you that's the one scenario in locals we did not practice at all, because I was like, I got this. There's no way I could lose this because I know how to play this scenario. That is incorrect. Just so
Did
everybody
you
knows.
lose that
I
scenario?
lost. Yeah, I lost that scenario hands down. I jousted with a control list and lost 2 ships, round first engagement. But again, some of that's my fault for the engagement pattern. The other piece of it is when you don't roll any green dice, other than 2 evades on, I think the guy had like 6 or 7 shots. What do you want me to do? Like
Yeah,
they're not
yeah.
gonna live. So, um, so if we go back to the tournament, right, and we talk about objective scenario play, I believe there's got to be tweaks. On a positive side, one of the things I'm excited about, right? One of the lists is wrong. You're right. But one of the things I'm excited about is the fact that they can easily put different type of scenarios out there for tournaments, for local play, for anything, and we don't have to buy a bunch of shit, right? They could
Yeah.
put a tournament pack out if they were smart. That's what they would do, but they don't have to do that. They don't have to do any of that, and I think that's a positive on a high level, because they can change, without changing points per se, the different style of objectives that we have to do. Now, think about it this way: if we had 8 scenarios that we had to play against, right? You're gonna change everything you do all the time. And we played 6 rounds. Now, think if we had 8 scenarios, you'd have to practice all 8 scenarios, figure out different ways around things, blah, blah, blah. On the opposite side, though, because every one of the effing scenarios has the exact same objective placement style minus chance engagement, once you know how to place objectives, whether you're first or second player, it all goes way too easy. And on that note, if you are first player and you can dictate how to some extent objectives are placed, like hands down. Like I showed a picture earlier where we had that. And that's the thing is like the first guy played goes, I didn't know you could do that. I said, I'm sorry. I feel really bad for you. He's like, how long have you been practicing for this event? About a month. Not with this list, but with objective placement and things. We've been playing with the day they released, we went into the studio and started playing with them. Literally, like hands down. So I had probably a good 25, 30 games going into Adepticon, not with my list, but with objective play. Because I tried to make CIS.
Just to get familiar with them. Yeah, absolutely.
And that was my argument. Like, unfortunately, the objective placement is somewhat solved to some extent. Like there's not enough variance for it. Now, how you engage, how you do different things, all these other variables still can make it fun, but that piece of it is a little troublesome. The other troublesome thing, and we haven't even gotten into draws yet, because that's another bee in my bonnet that I really, and I argued with one of my teammates all day today. I do not like draws. I cannot stand them. But the other issue that came down to it is the multiple style list. I shouldn't have to play Jedis 3 times a day. I just shouldn't. You know, like the creativity piece got narrowed down a little bit farther. I do think the opportunities with the loadouts and the style of how they create lists is higher. And I'll say that again. I believe the creativity level can be higher, but because of how the points are structured right now, it's not. And you can see by a landslide, Rebels and Republic just slid through that. And you want to know what's a break counter to interceptors? Freaking trajectory simulators. like I bitched about that 2 weeks ago on the podcast, if you were listening, and I cannot stand them. I think they should be banned, period, no matter what. And just in standard and be done with it. I have no love for trajectory simulator whatsoever. But I'm also the same mind that you should never be able to spend force on offensive range 0 shots, because that affected me more than one time. Like, fairness. And JJ, you did not do it. You said you're going to take as many people as you could get with trajectory simulators and get them banned. And how many did we see in cut? We only saw 3, damn it. 3.
I tried, damn it. I tried.
Like, what the fuck, JJ?
No, I could definitely say that that in my game, trajectory simulator wasn't always a threat. They definitely help control the board for me. And if you're trying to get any sort of offense in there, just the threat of the bombs going in there just really messes up your squad formation. I mean, one of my games that I had, I was able to hit a Mace Windu that was attempting to get into the middle and try to get around me and still claim an objective. I hit him into with a proton bomb, and then with Sabine crew, I was able to tractor him onto 2 out of my 3 cluster mines, and he died. And that's points right there. And he got a total of like 1 shield off of me for his trouble. Trajectory simulators can be really, really good. And not to say that they're not unbeatable, because obviously I didn't make it all the way, but they do offer a really good way of controlling the board, the center of the board, to make your opponent kind of want to stay away from it. So yeah.
Yeah. So then we talk about other things, right? Other things that could be changed. And so I'm going to go in, we're going to dive into draws. In competitive play, draws are bullshit. I'm just going to say it. I vehemently disagree with them, just on a whole. Like, and yes, I'm probably a little bit more biased because I had 2 draws this weekend, one in Saturday and one on Sunday. And I will tell you, in both of the games, neither one of us specifically went out of our way to create a draw scenario. It didn't happen. You know, in the case on Saturday in the tournament, the reason we had to draw is because I couldn't kill one of his specific ships, and he couldn't kill one of my specific ships. Every time I'd roll 2 green natties, he would roll 2 hits. That ship just lived way longer on both sides of the table than it should have. Um, and you can't change that. Now, we could have gone after objectives a little differently, and maybe that's what this will teach us to get rid of draws. But I'm still saying a draw is a negative play experience, in my opinion, in a tournament situation. And I do personally have theories on how to fix that. But before we do those, JJ, what is your thoughts on draws?
Well, I think that if draws are not going to be considered when it comes to like making cut in tournaments, then there should be no draws in at all. There should always be a clear winner and a clear loser. In this particular case, from what I've heard, how they were at least during the Swiss cuts. When people both reached 20 at the same, they were just telling people to just go another round until they had a clear winner, as long as there was time in the game. But there were a lot of cases where they didn't have that because time ended right when those rounds ended. I know that in the top cuts they had people roll for road, and whoever got the first player token, they won the game like that, kind of like final salvo, but it's
More fair.
not it's more fair, right? Because each player is rolling 3 dice, and then you're just comparing results at that point there. Um, it's not an ideal situation where you want to just have people just rely on that final roll to try to see if they win. But at the same time, if you're a 4-1 player and you don't make the cut, you feel really bad, right? Because at that point there's nothing in the scenarios that we have currently for 2.5 that give any other secondary conditions for victory in that case, which would be like, for instance, if the scenario for salvage mission would have the player who has the most, if players are tied, whoever had the most salvage points wins the game, or whoever had the most ship kills wins the game, or something to that effect, to help determine or make a clear winner in those scenarios. That would help that problem out. I do understand that for, in particular, in the GSP 20, they did have an issue in terms of time and how much time they could have for the second day, because the GSP Adepticon basically only gave them until 4 p.m. To finish out the event. So by necessity, they had to make sure that the top cut wasn't as didn't have as many games for the top cut. That I can understand, but in other situations where that's not the issue, you definitely want to make sure that if you're not going to give players who had draws and did really well otherwise, except for that one game where there's nothing they could do to break that tie, that they have a clear understanding of whether they're going to go into the cut or not, based on the how they performed that day, either by the strength of schedule, or by their win, their graduated cut, which would be X and one, for instance, and just eliminating draws and period for it, and by adding those secondary objectives or making sure that the players roll that road a roll, that definitely helps eliminate those draws. Which, honestly, I mean, if you got a draw in Adepticon, you pretty much took a loss, which sucks. So.
Yep, and that's what kept me out of faction prizes. If I had not had a draw for my last game, I would have made top cut, but I would have had faction prizes, and I would have been on the higher end of it because of my um whatever they call it, the SAV or SOS or whatever,
Yeah.
because I had a pretty high strength of schedule um going into it. But the reason for me, the draw piece, right? The reason you can't have it in a competitive tournament, and I find a road roll off is the minimum I would see. In my opinion, you have different alternative win conditions, and you could either have the event organizer choose which ones they are, and you just have a set of them. So you have a set of 5 or a set of 4 of them. These are the alternate win conditions. The organizer picks it, or you can have ones that are set in stone. So, for example, chance engagement. The tiebreaker is how many people got objective points, right? We know the ones in the center. How many times are you going to do that? And I will argue to the death of me, like a lot of so the feedback I've gotten that I'm told I'm wrong is because it gives an advantage to a certain type of player. And my argument is that that type of player, and this is going to be an ongoing discussion, I think, in competitive play experience. Again, locally, we have a draw if I don't care. Locally in a tournament where nothing's really big on the line, like we did a local series where money was on the line, but it wasn't a lot, you know, like first place was $40, second place was 35, and third place was 25 or something like that, right? If it came down to a draw and I'm looking at a player, if they are somebody that owns $1 million worth of shit, I'm going to force the road roll off. But if it's a new player, it's like, here you go, hey, take the money, man. Like buy something in the store, make that store keep playing for us. And anyway, the the issue I have with Cut is, and we're gonna have Crispy on Sunday, and this is gonna be a discussion that we're gonna have with Charles and Crispy, because I think the idea behind draws is good to eliminate Final Salvo. I hate Final Salvo, but I'm gonna tell you, I had 2 draws. It was more common in this tournament than it was, and we could go through all the effing numbers, and maybe that's what I'll do. I'll tell you how many draws throughout the weekend to happen. And if we look at how many final salvos normally happen versus that, it's exponentially higher.
Yeah.
Just off the charts. And
yeah, to my knowledge, there was at least 11 that I knew of, and I'm sure that number is high. So,
yeah, I had 2,
higher.
And I know there was 2 that didn't make cut because of it. So there's at least 4 at minimum. Oh, there's 5 because there was another one on Sunday that had to draw 2. Because somehow he had higher strength of schedule than I did. And so the problem I have in competitive play with it is the fact that if you offer these alternative win conditions that could either be randomized or could be done by somebody else, what you do is you create that idea in the mind ahead of time. So somebody knows. So if your list is an Alpha Strike list and you're like, they're all A wings and B wing, or all B wings, and they're all, arcs and lats, you're just never going to strike down in 6 runs. You can then focus on objectives. And if your list loses because you focus on objectives, that doesn't mean that you're a bad player. That doesn't mean any of that. What it means is that the way objectives are working is how they're supposed to, right? It's supposed to break up play styles. It's supposed to be so that we just can't go in and just fly ships to kill things, that we have all these other little pieces and facets that fit together. And that's why I like objective play, because it creates a more aggressive / unique experience to obtain points. And I will tell you, I've learned it, again, take my Nickel City stream last night. I didn't go for objectives because my opponent did, and then all of a sudden, guess what they did? Halfway through the game, towards the end of the game, they started going for objectives. And guess what? They went up until I could kill Sunfact, which
got you really up there.
I got me right back into the game. Boom. See you later, Sunfact. And it's funny because him and I actually rolled for it after the stream ended. So I did it 2 hard with Grievous to get the objective, and it got me out of Arc. I didn't know if a 1 hard would get me in Arc and get me the objective, and guess what it did? And I also didn't rotate my Bo-Katan to get 3 dice versus 2, which could have affected it as well. But when I rolled my Grievous shots, it was 4 dice on 2. I had 2 hits. He had 1 evade. His ship would have died. I would have got 3 more points and would have won the game. In a tournament, that would have been huge, right?
Yeah.
And so the difference is I went for a semi Alpha Strikey list with 1 person going to get objectives. And he went for more Alpha Strike and halfway through switched. So I don't see these alternate win conditions as actually something that affects how you play per se. I think it does affect how you play, but I don't think it affects it to give you an advantage, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, agreed.
The other piece that we had talked about, because I think the games overall, I think JJ and I probably agree on this. The games overall were very interesting. It was definitely fun to play a different scenario every round. I will say that. I enjoyed not just trying to kill somebody else. Though I almost kind of wish we would have had 2 chance encounters. Even though my list doesn't fit for that, right? My list is not an Alpha Strike list. It's a control list. But it would have given me a redemption ability to try it again and not joust. But anyway, that I think objective play provides a lot of benefit to tournaments for creativity that we don't get when we just shoot each other and list building. Because all of our list building before used to have to be, how do I kill the other player faster before they could kill me? How do I get extra shots? Blah blah blah. Double tappy, like I'll tell you what, cluster missiles are great, but they're not very good in the long run. Like getting 2 shots on ships that have 3 agility, that extra shot really didn't mean anything when I used cluster missiles. I'll be honest. And so for the main tournament, I dropped cluster missiles, but for the redemption tournament, I put them on. And that's where the Prockets probably would have been better because I could have one-shotted a ship. You know, I could have had those points faster. So I think there's a difference there. But the difference is we got how many rounds? What was my max round was 6, I think.
Yeah, same here. And from just talking to all the different players around me on my games, the average round count was about 4 to 5. So like 4.5 rounds on average for most of the games. And they weren't necessarily going to like a full 20 points. Like in those games, a lot of them were just going to time and stuff. A caveat to that, Dion did vary the round timer for every single round. Some of them were 72 minutes, and some of them were 78 minutes, if I'm not mistaken, for each round. So you never really knew like when the final round was going to come. But you know, just having that extra turn could make a difference for those games that didn't go all the way out to full 20 points. Or it would have resolved a lot of ties as well if they would have had just one more turn to resolve that tie. So,
and I will say on that note, I like not knowing the time per se, for the pure fact that I spent more time actually just planning that turn out. And every turn I was trying to say, how do I maximize my point count versus, okay, I have 10 minutes left. If I set my dials and I get three turns of shots in, I'm going to win. Or if they get 3 turns of shots, I'm losing because I have droids, right? You know, like it takes that piece out of it. And I'm not going to lie and sit there and say, well, before in the past, if I knew I had this many ships, I would run away. Now, not knowing that, you can't run away because there's objectives there. You run away, somebody's just gonna take your damn objectives, and boom, now you're screwed. I loved that piece of it.
yeah,
But that drives ties and draws, right? That's what that drives. But I liked it, and I thought in my games on Sunday, in my games, it mattered more than it did on Saturday. On Saturday, most of the games were blowouts on either side. I had one game against Corey that was not a blowout, which was my second game, which I won by killing his lat, which he was not happy about. And that's because we're teammates, and it's sad that when teammates have to go against each other. That was like, of all the 185 people, somehow him and I have to play each other. And I didn't believe you. When you told me I was going to face Corey, I was like, you're full of shit. I'm going to refresh my phone. I walked up there, and I sat down. I was like, hey, are we facing each other, Corey? He's like, I don't know. I was like, all right, well, JJ said we're on the same table. I guess I better look that up. If you don't know and I don't know. He's like, yeah, I didn't look. And I was like, damn it, we are.
Yeah, to be fair, I was actually like not looking forward to playing you. I was like, this guy knows my trick. He knows what I'm going to do. I was just praying that we weren't going to meet.
Oh, you and I never did, weirdly enough. I thought we would have crossed paths too at some point.
Yeah.
Some of the things that I think have to change, obviously point structures.
Period. Yeah, I definitely agree with that, because I think that while it's a good idea, in my opinion, that they separated the loadout points from like the ship points, so that way they can like adjust individual ships, you know, for how many points and what they can like carry and stuff like that at their loadouts. I think that there's a lot of overlap for points for different ships that have way different value than the other ones at the same cost. For instance, like the I-5 contrail on the Republic, that should not be a 2-point list. I'm sorry, it should be a minimum like a 3 or 4-point ship because of the initiative that it carries. Now you compare that to like, let's say
Wow.
Like Derek Clivian on the Rebellion, which is an A-wing, right? It's still a fast ship, but it's an initiative 4, and all it could take is vector cannons. Yes, that gives a little more time on target, but at the same time, it's okay for a 2-point ship, and it feels like there would be a lot more variety if they can open up like the points a little bit, so that way you can slot those ships in those in between points, right? Because you can't put them in like a 2.5 cost, right? Or like a 3.5. And like if you take a look at the differences between the YT 1300 pilots, you know, between Scum and the Rebellion, the Scum Han should not be the same price as Rebel Han, in my opinion. The Rebel Han gets a lot more utility with its rerolls than Scum Han does. Scum Han needs a lot of work to make it work consistently for what it can do. So I think that by increasing those points, you get a lot more granularity between the different pilots. But at the same time, if you're going to do that, you also need to increase the amount of points you need for objective scenarios for that. Now, increasing it from 20 to 40, it does seem like a big jump, but you can simply adjust how many points you're getting per objective to match what it was prior, or you can even make some objectives worth more or less, depending on where they are in the board, or for any future scenarios that way. And I think that really opens up design space later on for objectives, and helps the game a little more complex, and making you consider certain objectives more than others in objective play.
Yep, and I kind of like that. I think that adds a complexity to it that I don't think they're willing to do because it's going to be harder to keep track of. But I do to some extent agree with you. I think the other thing you could do with objective play is you could change, you could pick on each different scenario. So for example, in the ones where you swarm a satellite, you can change it so there's only 3 of them in the game,
Right.
right? Each player gets one in the center one. Because with swarms, it's easy to keep 2 of them. I mean,
Yeah.
it I was able to get 4 points just by moving slower, and then my opponent did the same thing. So I mean, in fairness, it worked out the same way, but again, it's not it's not accomplishing what AMG wants, and that's a I think the problem with because AMG did these things not 100% in my opinion with competitive play in mind. Like I am flying Republic, which I've done before, but I flew a swarm style Republic because that's my play style. If that had not existed, I would have flown a TIE swarm or an interceptor swarm. That's what I would have done. Um, and I swerved to a different faction specifically because I knew it was more powerful. It was testing better than other ones. But it didn't make me go to engage anymore. Right. I wasn't I figured out or tried to figure out what are my win conditions and how do I do these things because I don't actually care to some extent about engaging with my opponent. If I could fly past you and collect objectives, I didn't give 2 poops. It's like, all right, see ya. Have a nice, like I'm gonna go get my points and run. And so if AMG's goal is to create a more engaging experience, I think we change the objectives that we currently have slightly. The other one that we had the scramble the transmission, right? Where you have to claim it, you put your token on it, it's yours. I think those should be removed at the end of the round. That was a suggestion that came from our group.
Yeah.
Remove them at the end of
Or
the round.
and think about this as a point counter, right? How about the objectives that are more difficult to get to because if they're like more towards the center of the board, give you more points versus the ones that are towards an empty space, like in your friendly areas. So, like, let's say if you're going for the middle objective, that would be worth 2 or maybe 3 points, and the ones on the outside on your side only still worth 1. That gives you more an incentive to go in to try to control that centerpiece, or even the objectives are within like range 2, give them a buff and you make them 2 points instead of just 1, so that way you get a lot more interaction for those places and not just hang out and just stick with 1. And that would work well in the scenario where you're going for more points, for more objective points, to help you win the game, because that encourages you to try to at least start engaging, get those more value points, rather than just hanging out in the background, just waiting to like auto generate those or farm those objectives for points.
Yep, and you again that is definitely a possibility, and that's especially saying the center one is 2. The only issue you have is with decloaking that they again now you're benefiting certain lists a little bit more. I mean, can you imagine bringing a Kylo in and decloaking a Kylo with sensor scramblers? Boom, he's right there. He's going to be in the middle objective. You ain't going to kill him, and he's just going to run after that.
That's fine. I'll trajectory simulate some bombs over there. That's fine. You can decloak right into it. That's fine. That's fine, because if he runs away, then he no longer controls that center objective, right? And that's kind of the point, right? Like,
yes and no. I mean, when you claim it, yes, but that was the theory. Is the other thing you could do is say we could look at if your opponent has 3 objectives and you have 2, you subtract and you get the difference.
Yeah.
So if they have 3 and you have 1, you get 2 points and they get 1 point or something like that.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Yeah,
that would be another option to do for tournaments. And again, I don't want to get rid of objective play. I've been very happy moving towards objective play, personally, because I like the challenge it brings. All I can say is I hope to God they change points. And so this is what we talked about locally on our way home is we have ideas kind of like what we mentioned here where we want to change some of the objectives. What I'm hoping is that other communities will get on board with it. So we're stuck with this. So this is what we're going to play competitively unless a 2.0 scene comes about somehow where they're going to have the same style prize support and the amount of players that you get at some of these other ones. Without that, we're stuck with 2.5. So my theory is they're going to take all this data, blah, blah, blah. And what I'm hoping we can convince the Diones and the Ryan Farmers and the Gregs and the Scotts of the world is to adopt and test out some of these alternate formats and see if there's a variance in how you play, right? And how many objective versus mission points are scored. Because if we can move to that and we can demonstrate to AMG, here's a couple of solutions, I think if we're being on the positive side, they're open to change and they're open to making slight minor tweaks. I will say the one thing that they will not do is double the points. JJ, you're never going to get 40-point lists. It's not going to happen. Like
no, not 40-point lists. Just objectives.
You're not going to get 40-point objectives. They're not going. That's you're being hopeful there.
Which I ran on Gina. So yes,
you did. And did you ever use it? No.
Nope. Because I always forgot. Yeah.
And Greg, I guess Greg, I'll disagree with you on that. I'll just openly say I disagree with you, and you don't have to do it. We're going to try to figure out a way to try to help and see if there's a way if they will listen. I think if they change points, they are willing to listen. I think I agree. They're not willing to listen on certain things. They're not going to change the 40 points. They're not going to get rid of objectives. They're not going to do any of these other things, but they have changed their opinion on how they see the community, right? They have changed to some extent, and they are listening, whether we agree with how they listen or not. They're not going to go back again. Okay, you want to know how? You really want to know how? They are changing. What they did is they provided information to us on some of the changes well ahead of time. And that was never something that was ever done. We vocally said we want to know, what are you guys planning? Are you going to keep X-Wing alive? They did that. They came 100% on board and did that. They haven't made any specific changes because there hasn't been anything to change yet. They're not going to. That is a change from AMG compared to what FFG. Compared to what we had, they're listening more. They've gone on the podcast. So FFG never once went on a podcast to some extent. They never were in the chats. They were never answering questions. They were not engaging in the rules. They weren't doing that. FFG never partnered with artists the same way that AMG has. And I don't agree with what all these other artists are saying, but they aren't, they are to some extent listening compared to what they were before.
Yeah, I mean they have gone on to, you know, like obviously like Fly Better and to some extent GSP to like, you know, mouth, you know, what the changes are going to, that they're to make into the game. Are they necessarily listening to player feedback all the time? I can't really say for sure, yes or no. You know, they've had an agenda to do what they want to do with the game from the beginning, and that's what they want to set up and accomplish. And now I think they're just in a phase right now where they're just sitting back to see what happens, collect data, and probably react to it. It's unfortunate that we don't have like a time frame where they're planning to make changes to the game and everything like that. We can only hope that just like they were teasing like the changes for 2.5 from 2.0, that if they do decide to make any changes, that they are open and communicate those changes that they want to do in the future for the game, based on information that they're getting from the tournaments like Adepticon or any online events that may happen from the different podcast groups that are holding those tournaments, and hopefully be more communicative in the beginning. What they have done so far, a lot of people don't agree with what they do. I totally understand that, and I do agree with a lot of people to that extent. But at least they're willing to try to make something. Is it something that we all like? Probably not, because it's very difficult to please everybody. But at the same time, you know, it's still early, and this is a very big tournament that we got, and we're hoping that with all this information that AMG got from this particular tournament, that hopefully they're paying attention and make some lists. I'd rather have that hope that they do something to adjust the game to make the game a little more balanced, and make those changes for the game to keep the game alive, than for them to say, "Well, we tried and that's it. X-Wing is complete." I would not want that to happen at all.
So I've been around since 2020. So I'm not here before that. I don't know what FFG did before that. Since I joined the game, FFG has been silent. You know when they went on Gold Squadron? After they've been ousted. Who did an interview in 2020? Who did an interview in 2021? One person. So fine, maybe they did before, and that's great. They did it before. I could tell you, I could go back to other posts. People have complained that FFG is unresponsive, that they do not interact with their community, that the changes were solid. How about this? I have experience with FFG from Destiny. So we could talk about AMG's experience. I don't have AMG experience until now. I have past FFG experience, and FFG was a shit company, and they did shit things because of their parent company, Asmodee, because there's a money for it. I came from Destiny. The way they ran that was bullshit. It was a money grab for them at the end. They literally did everything they could to ensure the fact that they got the enough money to cover their costs for their last segment. And yeah, you're right. It's AMG, it's Asmodee. But I'm telling you, they were in the streams for GSP answering questions. They have been in the streams and have graciously taken questions from X-Wing players in non-X-Wing streams. We don't always like their answers. I will agree with everybody 100% on that. But the difference is if our goal as a community is to work towards helping change the future as much as we can, all we can do is provide statistics back. If they don't listen in 6 months, then fine, I'll eat crow. You can put me on screen and I'll fly one ship and you can all fly a bunch of ships and just shoot me and you can kill me over and over again. I don't know. I'm not going to give you money, but you know,
we'll give you an escape craft.
You can give me an escape craft. If I kill any one of you, though, then that's sad. I'll fly an autopilot drone. I'll 100% fly an autopilot drone. Actually, I would like for them to take the pips off that, and I would run a list with nothing but autopilot drones. That would be amazing.
I mean, hey, it could be good in objective play. 3 turns to win a game.
3 turns.
At that explode. Yeah, that's fun.
You just need one ship. One ship. The other thing we're going to try to do is make what's that resistance droid that allows you to come in at the end of the game.
Oh yeah, the GA97. Yep. It's the resistance.
It's the resistance. We would love to make It's the Resistance bot a thing. That would be amazing. All right. Well, thank you all for joining us. We will not have a game stream this week. If you want to watch game streams, Greg is streaming tomorrow night. I don't know who Greg has on, but Greg is streaming tomorrow night. If you want to watch some stuff. Otherwise, we will be back on Sunday night with Charles, hopefully, as long as he's not too busy, and Crispy from, I don't know where Crispy's from, but from I know him from Nickel City. That's the only place I know him from. Anyway, so as much as I disagree with you, I always agree with you, and we're all on the same team, and we want to somehow make this game last as long as we can make it last, especially for the dollar investments that we have.
Right.
Anyway, thank you all for joining us. We'll be back Sunday night, 9 p.m. Eastern. Have a good night, everyone.